Twin Cities Startup Week 2021 and the kickoff of season 5.
Boo, 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 boo.
I really regret that Cardi B whistle. I actually thought it was going to come up more like a whistle. So maybe we might have to edit that one. Anyway, welcome to season 5, the kickoff of season 5, along with Twin City Startup Week. It's something we do every year. This is Coffee and Closers. So this is a very special Startup Week episode, and I can't wait to get in it with you. But first, I want to give a sincere thank you to the beta team and the Twin City Startup team for, first of all, putting on this spectacular. Thank you, guys. The virtual clap, which everyone loathes, but I don't know how else to do this. Thank you, guys. First of all, thank you for putting it on. Thank you for inviting us up to once again, kick off this year's Sales and Marketing Day. It's a true honor. It's something we look forward to every year. Thank you. I want to thank you to our show sponsors. Without you guys, this production would never take place. That is Time on Target, Megan Lamke, Coalition 9, and of course, the Closers Media team for making this possible. All the folks that I just mentioned are hand-selected. They're best in class and they're true supporters of the Closers community. So make sure to check them out. And last but not least, thank you to the Closers community. First off, for making those new to our show today. There's a lot of people that probably have never tuned in today. Thank you for helping them feel welcome. If you're watching this virtually, make sure to say hi to them in the chat. And if you are one of the lucky ones watching this live on stage right now, make sure to take time to shake a hand, introduce yourself as one of the Closers community members, and make sure that our new startup friends feel welcome. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Mickeli Bedore. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Closers Media and the host of Coffee and Closers. So what does Closers Media do? We help businesses grow by implementing and teaching our conversion to close sales system that helps you turn leads and awareness into happy paying customers. To date, our clients have leveraged a system to get acquired, to IPO, believe it or not, and or grow their team by receiving investment dollars on their terms. So if revenue growth is a top priority for you this year, hit me up. That's Mickeli@closersmedia.com for more info. All right, back to the show. So today, your experience at Coffee and Closers first. In seasons past, we have interviewed fellow sales experts, and we just learn what we can, right? This season, starting today, we've heard your feedback. We listened to it loud and clear, and we're going to dedicate the next 12 episodes to helping real founders land their next 3 customers. Why? Well, because most of us can trip into a deal, right? We can leverage the friends and family plan to get a few bucks through the door, but after that, it gets real. And now we got to start. We got to start closing real logos month after month if we plan on actually building a company here, and that can be scary for a lot of us. So what we've decided to do is, starting today, we invited real founders, real local founders, Tim and Dick, on the stage, and they're going to share kind of a little bit about themselves and real challenges that they're facing. And the goal is that we're going to try and do our best to leave today with tangible steps that they and you can take to confidently grow revenue today. Does that sound like a plan? All right. Well, Tim, Dick, welcome to Coffee and Closers. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, what you guys do?
All right, I'll go first. Hey, everybody. My name is Dick Polipnik. I am the Chief Growth Officer of Online Growth Systems. We help SaaS companies or software as a service companies scale from napkin idea to essentially IPO or acquisition, right? And today we're going to be kind of diving into my topic. Is I previously do not have experience working for Fortune 500 companies. So I personally, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life, and I've never had a client in that Fortune 500 list before. So it's going to be a new experience for me. And I want to break that into that barrier so that way my company can grow and realize that new revenue, like Mickeli was saying. So we've also been a previous client of Closers Media. So love their services. They're amazing. And excited to get some value for both me and my company, and hopefully everybody else can learn too. So
right on. Thanks, man. Tim, you're up.
All right. Hey, everybody. Tim Bornholt. I am a partner with the Jed Mahonis Group. We partner with startups and other large organizations to help build custom mobile software solutions. We primarily do that in the form of native iOS and Android apps, also websites too. You can't really do one without the other these days. We've been around for almost 10 years now. And just like Dick, we lucked into finding Mickeli and have used Closers Media to help our sales process out. And it's been doing well ever since. And our current struggle that we're going to talk about from our side is we have a client in a market that we would like to try to expand to more clients in that same market. So I'm hoping to pick Mickeli's brain, and hopefully you guys, if you have that same problem, can learn something as well.
Right on. And just a couple disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, you guys are thinking at home like, oh, wow. So he brought on happy paying customers, the ones, you know what I mean? I'm sure you're thinking, what a cheat. You'll find in our sales system that these guys know there are no surprises. Like, be gone are any of the surprises moving forward when you install our system. I don't like, and that's built around me. I don't even watch Vikings games until I know they've won. That's how bad it is. I wanted to know the end of this new Star Wars trilogy before I even got started, because that's a lot of time to waste if the ending sucks. So anyway, you guys will find that out. So yes, you're right. I wanted to have these guys in because they're already happy. They've already leveraged us. But these aren't fake challenges. These are real challenges, because Dick in particular hadn't broken into Fortune 500. He hadn't needed to. He had his sweet lane that we developed. He crushed it. He drained it. And now we're moving on to a new swamp. So I want you to know this is kind of a hybrid of real and prepped, just to be fair and honest. With that, I want to jump into so we have our challenges here, and I'm going to run through a little routine here because I want everyone listening at home to understand that sales is not the scary boogeyman that people think it is. In fact, as you guys know, you know, non-classically trained sellers, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the majority of who we serve. People that think that reaching out to somebody new and cold is scary. And it can be if you do it like a bad networker. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is this is Twin City Startup Week. So you guys have been in networking events. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe there's one that just bum rushes you and shoves their card in your hand and starts like attacking you about business. Like, that isn't something people do. Like, our kids just started school, and all the we just moved here. So all the new parents are welcoming us in. Not one of them tries to force their kid to hang out with my kid. That's just not how life is done. Yet we've all had the LinkedIn experience, right? Or we've all had email solicitations where we show up to something and now we're on their newsletter chain. We didn't ask to be on it, and we're just getting throttled. And that's how people expect sales to work. That is nobody interacts in normal form that way, nor does nobody buy that way. But yet a lot of us default to selling that way, and it just doesn't work. So let's talk about what has worked for you guys. You already know this, but now the audience does. And how we approach sales and human interaction, which is what it is how did you land your first customers? Let's start there. Like, how did you find them? How did you land them? How were you connected with them? Let's go with you, Tim.
Our first customers, and honestly, I would say almost all of our customers until the point that we hired closers, found us somehow. We made a website. I've been doing web development my whole life. I started when I was in first grade. So by the time we started this business, I had already had like 20 years of development experience. And we put up a website, and we ranked high on Google for Twin Cities app developers, which I was really proud of. We beat out some people that are still around today that are really well known in the community, and that somehow we lucked into finding business that way. And that's, I would say, it's been just people coming to us, reaching out and telling us what they've already come to us with the problem, and they already know they want to build an app. And that's been kind of the clients that we've had, and where we've been shifting to since working with Mickeli is really finding people that have operational problems, and we can kind of work with them to come up with a solution. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's not. But to answer your question specifically, you asked me this the first time that we met, and I still can't tell you how we found our first customers. They just kind of showed up in our lap, and that's not how most businesses work, but hey, it worked for us.
Right. And as we discussed, that's cool. And I'm guessing people listening, if they tune into this, are probably like, you read the title, you're like, yep, I have had some clients. Maybe they can't recall either, and now maybe they've gotten investment or whatever. They got some heat. They brought on some employees around that initial success, and now they're going, all right, now I got to figure out a rhythmic pattern of how to get more customers through the door. What do I do? Is that fair to say? Is that kind of where we're at, Tim?
100%. Yep.
And then Dick, talk us through how you landed your first customers. And then I want to pivot to the Fortune 500, because this is almost everybody's game plan. No offense, to say, all right, I know that's where the money is, so I should go there. And that's where that's where the study ends. And that is like 9 out of 10 of our clients every single day. So I want to be very respectful. But can you kind of walk us through your first kind of initial batch of clients, how you landed them?
Yep.
And then why Fortune 500 now?
So our first batch of clients was very much your old school, just volume. We were knocking on doors. We were showing up uninvited to businesses. This is, circa 2015, 2016. We were just walking into businesses saying, hey, can I talk to this business's owner? And either they weren't there and we try to, book an appointment with them, like on the spot with their receptionist, or, getting past those gatekeepers. And then we would, on the rare occasion, we had 2-3 business owners who were willing to meet with us spontaneously on that. And we sat down, and that was before I brought my laptop in and had a fancy slideshow. It was just like 2 pieces of printed out paper. One was like our pitch, and then one was like 3 different packages, or 2 different. We had 2 packages we were offering at the time. One was for $1,000 a month and one was for $1,500. And I thought that was like all the money in the world. Right. So sat down with a couple of business owners, and some of them would listen to me pitch for an hour. And one of them in particular, and they went, all right, we'll go with the big one. And then he started to chuckle, and he said, I bet you wish you would have had a bigger package, didn't you? And I'm like, learned my lesson. Right. So that's kind of how the first ones got going. And then, just had, that momentum build up and have that snowball effect over time. And one success leads to more, and work begets work, as some of our partners like to say, and turned even some of those first customers into case studies. So that's kind of how we got started. And the reason for pivoting into Fortune 500s is because, as kind of I was hinting at earlier, a lot of the times smaller companies have a hard time with budget. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, can you afford the services or not? Because so we have that marketing agency, right? So the full service marketing agency, we can do everything from video to LinkedIn ads to whatever. So we can help you get leads and grow your business, but we can't do it for free, right? We're in business, we're in it to make money as well. We need to feed my employees and their families and that whole spiel. So we need to make sure that you have a budget to pay for our services to grow your business, if that makes sense. So we're following the budget. Honestly, it's not sexier than that.
I dig it. Well, we're going to start with you then, just because you're going to find a lot of disappointment in our process, because it really covers all angles. I'm kidding. There's obviously some nuances with Fortune 500, just because it's a multi-level sale. You know what I mean? Like, you're not unlike like a SMB where maybe you're 50 employees on down. There's still layers of decision making, and sometimes it can be harder because you're dealing with it's directly somebody's baby. Whereas a Fortune 500, it's their ladder rung that if they pick, no one gets fired for buying Microsoft or whatever the saying goes. So sometimes you have to look at, is this worth the risk, right? And that's where the sales is very different. That's where it's very different. But there's also an obstacle. There's advantages, and I've talked about this on previous shows. Is there's advantages and disadvantages of being being a blue label type of company like an IBM or something. Is you have burnt someone in the past. You've been around too long to not screw up. So now you have to deflect that. Whereas if you're a new provider of something new, they've never heard of you. So then you see what I'm saying. So it's a different talk track, but it's not it's either defense or offense. Either you're trying to educate them, trying to score, if you will, trying to educate them on who you are, what you are, and the advantages, right? Often leveraging your previous past at a Fortune 500 company, which is why you thought you could do it better. When you're a Fortune 500 person breaking into another Fortune 500 company, they say, "Oh, I've heard of you," and then immediately goes to, you know what I mean? I have my preconceived, notions, and then now you have, and then you gotta go up from there, because the rep right before you could have absolutely just scorched earth the entire village, and they absolutely hate you. They hate you. And the CTO that just purchased your platform is still there. Or sorry, that purchased the platform prior is still there, and you're trying to sell licenses on apps on top of that platform. Good luck. So anyway, there's advantages of being a startup. But with you, Tim, what was your go back to your main challenge. We're going to start with Dick because you do have experience breaking into Fortune 500 companies. So I figure, if anything, we can have you kind of glob on too to say, oh, this is what I learned. This is what I learned in my experience. But what was your challenge that we wanted to go through today in specifics?
Sure. So we have a client who is part of a Sanford Health. They're based out in Sioux Falls. And we one of the reasons when we were talking with them of why they chose to work with us to help them build an app was because they wanted a team that could help them supplement their mobile capabilities. They had really strong developers, but they just needed a team to come in and help on the mobile side. So what we kind of from that knowledge, we kind of came up with the hypothesis that if there's a very large company in a relatively small market, they're probably not the only ones that have challenges finding help on the mobile app side. And instead of trying to attract talent these days, which, the software developers the salaries are just exploding over the last few months, it's gotten real expensive to hire app developers. We thought, what if we partner with companies instead and they pay our team to use us when they need us to get the app built out and then just support in the long run, as opposed to having a salaried iOS developer just sitting on staff kind of bored because the app's built. They're just kind of spinning their wheels at this point. So what my specific ask of you, Mickeli, what I'm trying to figure out is what is a good approach for finding similar companies in a similar position, like basically large companies in smaller markets that might need help building mobile apps.
Right on. I might volley this back then to you, Tim, and start there, and then end up in the Fortune 500 land because it's kind of the same process. And anyway, we're like I told you guys, we're just going to kind of wing it and see which way it feels right. But as you guys know, first and foremost, I'm going to walk you through. It's our service, our product, if you will, is a 3-month, video and coaching course. So hands-on and virtual for redundant learning. So I'm going to try and smash it into what do we got here? 30 minutes. So I'm going to do my best to try and smash it. But I want to start at the end. The way that our companies close more business than anyone else, the reason why they've gotten acquired, the reason why they consistently get funding is because we focus on the most tangible, the most comfortable way for people to sell, which is human-centered. It's a human-centered sales system. Okay. When you're going to go and introduce yourself to anybody, anywhere, you want to find a like thing that we can relate on. Oh, you like mountain biking. Oh, you like playing guitar. Oh, you like whatever, right? Like that's just basic human stuff. So we want to find that from a business standpoint, because us just cold reaching out to somebody and asking them if they want to go to a bluegrass jam some night is ridiculous. Like they don't know you. I don't know you. I got better things to do. I already have friends. Thanks. So we kind of got to hybrid it. And the first thing we want to do when it comes to identifying who our friends are going to be, Tim, in your case, you've got Sanford. We want to find rhythmic patterns of success so we don't have to work too hard, right? It's okay to be lazy when you're putting together your plan, but we have to start somewhere. Like for Dick, Fortune 500 companies. It's 500 companies. You're going to call, you know what I mean? Like you're going to go be an expert in all 500 of their pains and challenges and industries and geographical challenges and political landscape. No, absolutely not. So there's no reason you're not going to go and find 500 new friends. Let's just scale it down, right? Let's try and make a couple friends a week. Because with a Fortune 500 budget, and the size of your company, you're only going to need a couple. So anyway, that's the first thing. Where have we had success before? Now I'm going to pick on both of you guys. Dick, Bulk Reef, Andrew's a buddy of mine. I know that you've worked with them. That is an e-com, very niche specific e-com play. How many more bulks do we have? Maybe we have one, but we have 5. Just going to use e-com as an example. Maybe auto parts. You got 5 auto parts e-com companies that you've worked into. Well, who does auto parts? Napa, AutoZone, all these Fortune 500 companies that may or may not have a real strong e-com play that you could help them with. And you could use these case studies to say, listen, we did it for these guys. And they're kind of a underground type of company, unless you're into fish and stuff. No offense to, Bulk, but like you can kind of go through that pattern, right? Same with Tim. You've had a lot of success in the healthcare industry, which is super hard to break into and rare. And specifically with Sanford, they're the big name in Sioux Falls, which isn't a tiny town, but it's much smaller than the Twin Cities. And I grew up in a small town, like with Fargo, you had Shields. That was the big thing. When even in Colorado, you got Vail. Like that's a major industry there that everyone knows about. You know what I mean? So everyone's trying to break into them. You already have. And so now you have a chance to tell that story over and over. And the biggest misconception that people think is I got to have all these logos and spray them all over my website. You really don't. The best way to do it is to leverage past experience. Like let's say you're brand new to your startup, but you worked at 3M or you worked at somewhere, Granger, I don't care, or Oracle, wherever. Oracle has experience with these companies. 3M has had experience with Big Fortune. You know what I mean? With these kind of companies. Therefore, you have. So, what's your side of the story in which you had a chance to do a big project at 3M? And then, oh, by the way, the reason why I started my company is because they were doing a great job here, but they weren't serving this market, or they were doing it okay. But there was a thing that they were doing that was getting bottlenecked and pinched, and they were too big to unhinge that. So I decided to build a niche product or a niche service or whatever around this thing. And now I'm able to bring it to companies like you from a nimble standpoint, an affordability standpoint, and a velocity standpoint, because I don't have to get 16 levels of pre-approval to serve you and discount and do all those things. Again, huge advantage to be in a smaller company, in my opinion. And I've spent 15 years working for, 3 of the 5 biggest companies in the world. So I have some experience. Anyway, that's where we're going to want to start. So if we were to doing this, if this was our regular, weekly deal or biweekly deal, we'd have you guys have already put together some of these things. So if you're watching from home and you guys now, this, but what are top five customers we had, top 5, top 3, and then where's the relation? And then we can start building out our experience there. That's number 1. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Anything to add?
No. Not for me.
You're looking for the common thread.
I just want to see if you guys are still paying attention. I know Tim's dealing with the machine ghosts over there, so I just want to make sure he wasn't taking over. So we kind of touched on some things, but I want to hammer them home because in our training, what you're trying to cram in here is the industry size, the title of people that you've had previous success with, the geography that they're in. Those are very important before we jump into our next phase. Again, what we're trying to do is bring human-centered outreach to these people that's scalable. That's not mass automation. If you're hearing mass automation, zip it. That is not what we're talking about here. It is scalable, but it does require work. There's a difference between getting a note that says, hi, insert name. I see you do app dev. We help app dev companies in the United States. You're like,
we do good work. Yeah.
We do good work. Anyway, you know the drill. Everyone's had this experience. We scoff at that because it's just lazy. What we want to do is, okay, let's take Sanford for an example, or we can use AutoZone or whatever for example, Dick. If we're trying to break into these places, and I'm going to try and twofer it if you hadn't, just out of respect for time, it's the same pattern though. I want to find, okay, so Sioux Falls, what else is in Sioux Falls? Oh, UHG, these guys, they also have some notability. But you hear what I'm saying? We're starting there. Now, after that, we break into what's a cousin of the healthcare industry. Who else serves the healthcare industry, right? Who else serves that layer and that layer? Because we want to build kind of a little family, if you will, family tree of cousins. What we don't want to do is go healthcare, manufacturing, legal, EDU education, like that. That just doesn't make any sense, and it'll tire you out. Because you want to have this, you want to have the same conversation. You want to have similar conversations every day to say, like, for instance, if you're a financial advisor, right? Or you're in the financial space, you say, hey, Dick, I don't know if if you're tracking China, we don't live there, but we do live in the United States, and we're very tight. Our economies are very tied together. If you're familiar with the Evergrande standoff or sell-off, that's going to affect your portfolio. And I don't know exactly what. I've heard 2% to a 20% dip. Is your financial advisor talking to you about those types of things, specifically because you live in a higher tax state like Minnesota? Like that's one thing you could say 100 times, because it's personal. Because why? We know where this guy or gal lives, the decision maker. We know that this is their livelihood, right? They're the CFO or whatever, where this would matter if they're looking at employee benefit packages. We know that I think we said geography, and then industry in this case doesn't really matter, but we know that that's something that's going on, right? You could say, listen, I saw that this thing you posted. So this is where next step is finding something that we can relate to. Maybe it's the guitar, maybe it's the bluegrass jam. Maybe it's you love mountain biking, or you love volunteering, or you love this one thing. Very easy to find. Everyone's accessible these days. You can find something they're passionate about, whether it's a nonprofit they're really into. Tim, I know you're a massive, runner, health nut. Like, you can go into that. Like Dick, I mean, you can look at your past experience with Founders Live, being on the mic, listen to your podcast and go, okay, there's something that we can talk about here, right? Even if I've never been on a podcast or don't have my own, I can be like, I really love that episode, Dick, of this, that, and the other thing. Are you familiar with this other podcast that talks about this subject? Have you heard of that? No, I haven't. We can bring that human-centered, those bridges together. But again, that's not what we're going to lead in, because I don't know you. And I did not know about the Evergrande sell-off until right now. Now I'm interested. Do you see? That's kind of the prong approach for you, Tim, and only because we worked on this with Sanford. You've done such good work there in a place that's very hard to break into. I know that because they have a big hub in Fargo, around where I grew up. You have case studies, and you have specific situations where you said, hey, you guys are trying to minimize the amount of legwork or red tape or whatever, and it's costing you this much. This is what Sanford went through, and I think we can do that for you. Is saving X amount of time and being able to reallocate your human assets to different things to work on. Would that be of benefit for you? Right? I know in your industry, or in your geography, that these things are taking place. Right? You bring that up, and they go. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a question around that, and something you said earlier too about how you want to get focused around one industry and not have kind of a scatter shot of different industries you're going after. One thing with our experience, we've worked with healthcare, we've worked with restaurants, we've worked with retail, we do have a scatter shot range of portfolio pieces that we have worked with. What mental model do you follow to kind of help guide people to figure out which industry is the right industry to really go after?
You mean in regards scattershot versus laser focus?
Yeah, because with going after, if we're going to go after Sanford, then the theory would be we should go after other healthcare related companies and then kind of expand out from there. Where do you, when you have like a portfolio, and this might be like a privileged position I'm speaking from, but like if we have a few different clients that are big names in several different industries, it's like, how do you think about which one of those industries to be laser focused on and go after?
All right. I'm sorry that I have been talking for this long and haven't clarified that. So my bad. I'm going to use a live example for us is so there was a period of time. So we really have served two industries quite well. One is the tech startup, and, or like we've worked with Infor and Jamf. So it's not like they're all startups, but, and then the professional service companies, for instance, what do you guys do? Professional service companies. We work with MentorMate. We work with Newline. We work with Foundry. We worked with a bunch of professional service companies, Network Medics. We work with a bunch of professional service companies and software companies. Why? The reason is because they're intertwined, right? A lot of the professional service companies we've served are software development companies. The other industry that we've served are software companies. So we can speak to those things. Plus, I spent 15 years in high ticket software sales. So there's that. But that was kind of something that we fell into. I want to be very honest. We did not have this plan and this strategy that we've developed the last 7 years. Okay. Now we have it. So now we eat our own dog food. But at that time, we just kind of tripped into those things. But I want to tell you that because it was based on experience. So for us, I'll give you an example, then I'll get it back to you with a few of your, I know some of your, I know like Great Clips. We'll use that as an example in a second. And then Dick, I want to make sure we take time with you is when so the first customer that I landed when we were BBG prior to morphing into closers was Infor. Infor they were going to go to the cloud. They'd never gone to the cloud. They've been all on premise the whole time. And I got the gig because I was ice fishing with the VP of sales over there, who happened to be one of my dear friends. And at the time I had the luxury to, thanks to some commissions and some years of past, that I got to take the leap. But we started there. Okay. It was a good project, but it was going to end. And so Lead Pages was on the rise and Field Nation was on the rise. And so when I went to Lead Pages kickoff with their new, back in the warehouse district, their new office, which seems like millennials ago, but I had a chance to talk to Kyle Hale, who was their brand new VP of sales. And I knew Clay and a couple other guys. And I said, hey, something we just did because they were going to build out like almost the same deal, not go to the cloud. They were already in the cloud, but like they wanted to build out an SDR and an inside kind of ASR team. BD, do you guys know what this means? So business development reps, hit the phones or whatever, do outreach. And then the ASR, the account rep will work the deal. So for those of you who don't know that. So SDR, ASR, and they wanted to build the same model that Infor did. So I said, well, what we did with Infor, and it was very challenging because they're not as quick and nimble as you guys. They're not as young and hip. They're more on-prem. So we had to get over that. And here's the success rate we had just a couple months ago. Is that what you guys are looking to build? And Kyle's like, yes. He's like, hell, if you can do it there, you could probably do it here. Okay. Same deal with Lead Pages. Had a beginning and end. I knew it was going to come. Field Nation came up. I met Manuel at a thing, but I knew Liz Benz from my Oracle days, who was their VP of sales, and Jeff Parrish. And I said, hey guys, here's what we just did at Lead Pages. And prior to that, we did it at Infor. I think we could do it here. Here's kind of a model I think that would work for your unique business. Those 3 logos turned into 30 logos for the next, years. We got all the, we worked with everyone. Jamf, we worked with all the software companies here locally, other than Code 42, because they blew up very fast and they didn't need us. But Mitch was he could do the job. He didn't need us. But anyway, most everybody else based on those 3 logos and that same exact story. Does that answer your question? The shotgun approach, in my opinion, is fleeting. We've got Sanford. We've got UHG. Let's go and see who else in the healthcare industry within Sioux Falls or beyond. I mean, I would consider Sioux Falls, Fargo, just those kind of hubs because they're all kind of cousins. As far as here's who we've worked with in the healthcare industry there. Here's what their pains and challenges that they came to the table with, and here's how we overcame them. We think we could do the same for you. Would this be worth a conversation to learn how? Same with Great Clips. Great Clips came to us. Now, Great Clips could be any retail play. It doesn't need to be cutting hair, although it could. It could be Regis Jute. You could go after them and say, have you heard of Great Clips? Yes, I have. Here's a situation where, their online bookings weren't taken off because they just didn't have a reputable app. It wasn't intuitive or it didn't exist. And here's what we were able to do for them. Would that be worth a conversation having with you guys? Of course it would be. Like, what the hell? It's free. It's not you're not going to charge me this conversation, are you? People say yes to that. I'm going to stop now because I've been talking a lot. Does that any of this make sense? Or I'm trying to answer your question while educating people that I can't see.
No, for sure. That does. I think the gist of my question was like, we have a really strong person in health, like a really strong logo basically in healthcare and a really strong logo in retail. Do you really like figure out how you double down on one of those? Like, do we really, do we have to, can we go for both? Like, I don't, that's always been I think a struggle that a lot of people in my position have is you want to do everything and boil the ocean, but at some point, you only have so many hours in the day to make sales. You only have so many, at bats to be able to make these relationships. And so it's like, I think that's probably something that people here are thinking about would be like, how, if you already have a few customers, we're talking about landing your next 3 customers, how do you decide which one of those areas to like, go after and target? And you don't have to, that could be a rhetorical question and you can talk to Dick because I've been talking and taking up your time this whole time, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now.
Well, this is a good transition because I wanted to hear Dick's take on this. But so the show is called How to Land Your Next three Customers. What I should have added in the title is how, and I think I will moving forward, Garia, let's do that, is how to land your next 3 customers by leveraging your first 3 customers. That's what I should have titled this. All right. For instance, if you have, let's say you have, you have a foot injury, right? You're going to go look up a foot doctor who has lots of experience, right? You're not going to go to a pediatrician, right? Like you're not going to go to an eye doctor. You're going to go to a foot doctor, correct? They've done it right all along. Doctors are the best salespeople ever. I'm convinced because niches are in the riches. So they've already decided I'm a foot doctor. They're not going to fix your cough. They're not going to prescribe medication for you to fix your ADHD. They're going to go and fix your foot, and they're damn good at it. And they do the same, and they do almost the same surgery. They do the same protocol every single day. They don't have to think about it. Their life is very easy, and they print money. And that's how I want people to think about this. The first 3 customers that you tripped into, and when I say trip, I'm being facetious. Obviously, there was probably a plan. You have 3 customers. Let's just say it's 3. Let's say it's 2. Let's say it's 1. But you have some success to teeter off from. What people do wrong, and I see it all the time, and then that's why they come to us, is, well, I've got 10 different customers, and they're in 7 different industries, right? All we have to do right there is dissect. Let's just pick your favorite. Who pays on time? Who closes the fastest? Who sings your praises, right? What's an industry you're passionate and interested in? Let's just start there. We don't have to make it complicated. So, Tim, before we transition to Dick, what I'm talking to you about specifically is, I know most of your clients because we work together, so I have that advantage. The Great Clips thing is a story. Sanford, UHG, those are stories, right? You have was it Turn Signal? That's a story, a sexy story. But those are 3 different stories. So what you want to do is you want to have your anchor story that is layered in third-party verification and proof that you've had success within that industry, within that geography, within that pain and challenge, whatever it is. Okay? You leverage that story. That's all we're talking about here, is when you go and you evangelize your unique offering to other folks, if you don't have that anchor story, you're wasting your time. Because if I'm like, hey, I got a foot injury, and you're like, yeah, no kidding. So what I do is I prescribe Adderall for people that have ADD, ADHD, or bipolar 2. And you're like, what the hell does that have to do with my foot? What? Like, so you have no experience in fixing feet? Not at all. None. But I want to. It's like how people break into Fortune 500 companies. I have no experience, no idea who my target is, but I want to. So now let's transition to you, Dick. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yeah, nailed it. Thank you.
I guess I just want everyone to get their mind around, like, this is not that hard. It just requires preparation and work and making a decision based on experience, success, comfort, stories, things that you've already done it. Whether at this startup that in your guys' case, you guys have a track record because you've been doing this a while. But if someone's listening at home saying, well, I just started my new tech startup, but I worked for these companies prior to that, they have stories. Leverage those stories. Leverage a story that you built within their story and or their legacy, and bring it to the market. There's a reason you started this service or company, is because you saw something that no one else saw. But bring their familiarity and credibility to the table, and you win. Right on?
I dig it.
All right. Now, Dick, that was not a dig on, like, I want to break into Fortune 500 companies. I've never done it. But that is, honest to God, what everybody says when they come to us. They go, hey, I want to break into Fortune 500 companies. And so my big question is, why, other than the money?
So the answer is, we want to have a bigger company, and we want to have larger accounts. It's going to help us scale. It's with a service-based business, like we were talking about. We're very human-oriented. We scale via hiring more people. We, in and of ourselves, are not a software company. We can't scale. We can't build an app. Tim can't build us an app and then we sell it to 10 million users, and it's we're marginally hiring more support reps. We're very human process oriented. So with every 3 new clients, we're hiring a new employee. I don't know the exact ratio, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And before we kind of dive down my rabbit hole, I kind of want to touch back on Tim's, because we are literally going through this right now. We were everything to everybody 5 years ago, and then we started to narrow it down to probably 2 years ago. We narrowed it down to just SaaS and e-commerce, and then just like this summer, we're starting to work less with e-commerce, and we're starting to work more with just SaaS companies, because we're finding that that's our lane. That's where most of our case studies are. We did exactly what Mickeli was saying, who are the customers that pay on time? Who are the ones that stay the longest on a retainer? Because that's important for our business too, for scalability and longevity and predictability. And where can we double down and leverage previous case studies and even existing customers and say, hey, we're currently working for companies A, B, and C, which are, like you said, close cousins to what you are doing. And then it's much easier for them to say yes, because you're a foot doctor and you just worked with 3 other foot patients, right? So we went through that, and it was one of the best decisions. And it's like you said, Mickeli, is the hardest thing is making that jump. And there is like a slower way to do it. You don't have to like cut everybody off on day one and all of a sudden your revenue is at 50% of what it was yesterday. Like we're doing like a phased approach. Like we're still serving all of our e-commerce customers that we had at the beginning of the year. Like we're still serving them. We're just not taking on new ones right now, unless they're like just no brainer, whatever, just for revenue's sake. But like we're super hyper laser focused on that SaaS clientele. So I just wanted to add that to my 2 cents there, because we're literally in the process of like right now. So,
well, perfect timing, man. Thanks to Startup Week for bringing us together. Right, Dick? It's been a while.
That's right.
So kind of going back to the Tim thing is, first of all, making these decisions, bravo to you, right? Like we've had to do the same thing. We don't take B2C on. And if I had a nickel for every B2C client that we get hit by every week, I mean, man, I'd have a bag of nickels, that we just turned down that business. But I've never sold into B2C. Yeah, at least maybe 2. But it's hard to do because it's money. And when you start out, you're like, oh, money. But I will tell you, there is good money and there's blood money. And the blood money sucks you dry. That's where a lot of businesses go out of business, because you're already sacrificing your being. You're already saying, well, I don't really do this, but I could this one time. Well, now that's a story. It's just a bad story. And you're the villain, because now they tell, you know what I mean? Now that's how business goes. They tell, like we used to do recruiting for a hot minute, because we'd come in and then we'd train everyone. They sort of have success. And they're like, hey, can you find me 5 more people like people you guys just coached? And we would say yes. Well, I underestimated the amount of time that took to find top people, right? And that wasn't our deal. Like we did it, but it wasn't what our skill was, and that ended up almost breaking us. That was the transition from BBG to closers. We just needed some like line in the sand to be like, listen, we don't do this anymore, because this is a full-time job and this is a full-time job, and I believe in this more than that, because people are going to come to work with their own agendas and their own process. But why don't we implement a process here that's worked for 20 years? We just hire along that, or you hire along, because then you can hire anybody. You can hire Olive Garden chef or whatever to come on and use this system, because it's the same and it's been implemented right. And I guess for you, kudos. That was a long. If you can't tell, like I said, I'm kind of trying to do this for you guys and trying to do this for people I cannot see. Because everyone's coming at today and their business from a different standpoint. And I know for sure somebody right now has just taken on a contract that they wish they hadn't. I took on several. Okay. Several. And I'm sure you have too, Tim, Dick, no doubt. So starting with what we know right now, which is our feet are firmly planted, to go up the hill the right way. Fortune 500 company and prep does require the same type of work and stuff that we just discussed. So if those people just jumping in, what we discussed is we want to take and pocket, we call it pocket prospecting, but batch, pocket, whatever, specific industries and or titles and or geographies. I like to go deep. So I like 2 to 3 industries. In our case, closers, we only have 2: software companies and professional service companies. I prefer to do work in the Midwest, specifically Minnesota. That's just me. Do we have clients elsewhere? Absolutely. But then you got to deal with time zones, and I'm not a fan of that. That's why there's no strategy. I don't really want to deal with time zones, because I'm an idiot when it comes to calendars. So there's that, right? So we know that. But then in particular, what are the types of titles and the people that we help? I prefer to work with companies that are 100 employees on down, so that I can actually have a tangible impact on the decision maker's livelihood and the team's livelihood. That I do that for selfish reasons, because I like to see someone's life change, within a 3-month stretch or a 6-month stretch, whatever we're contracted for. It just does the body good and it motivates me. That's why I do what we do. So that's my story. So for you, Dick, knowing that you have your story and you're going into Fortune 500 companies, you want to do the same exercise that we just talked about with Tim. We want to pick a lane, maybe 2, maybe 3 lanes. We can go beyond that. Okay. There's no saying like we just gonna shit can all the rest of our experience in industries. We don't do that. That's nuts. But we focus and we batch, and the work that we put into it is we find something that we have common ground with our decision maker. We find maybe, in just like in Tim's case, healthcare, what would you call it? Service retail, kind of, brick and mortar service retail, and we go there. We start there. And then we build kind of our list and our thing based on geography that we're familiar with, stories we can tell that relate, right? Because Texas and Minnesota are completely different places. California, New York, completely different places. So leveraging stories across country, it doesn't have the same hit. You can do it. It just doesn't have the same hit I've found. And then understanding a title, a CTO, a CFO, a CIO, whatever. You can see we sell in the C-suites, but VPs of product development, whatever. You know what I mean? And getting their story down too. So finding the people, finding where you relate with them, finding though also the things that they're facing and their challenges. If it's a Fortune 500 company, oftentimes they're publicly traded. You can leverage an artifact called a 10K or an 8K. 10K is where they have to publicly announce, hey, this is where we failed our shareholders last year. Here's where the direction we're going to go in this year to solve it. It's free and it's accessible to everybody. I highly recommend, if you're selling to Fortune 500, that you definitely pull 10Ks for all of your clients. It's a PDF document usually, and you can easily navigate like, oh man, the technology, they didn't have enough new leads coming in, so they got to double down on marketing automation or hiring for sales. Or, they have very inefficiencies in their tech stack. They've got all these disparate apps. They want to bring it either in-house to build a custom version, or
will they actually say that word for word, or will it be much more high-level, abstract, corporate BS kind of jargon?
It won't be corporate. It'll be clear. I mean, because they have different sections. They have technology sections, financial sections.
Got it.
So I sold into financial sections for 15 years. So I would go to the financial section. I would find, their revenue was down, this and that. Oh, what was the cause of it? Sometimes it was just they had a disparate. They didn't have an ERP system that was worth anything, or it was a home built and it was costing them, or they got a license hit because their vendor didn't. Whatever the reason was, it's there, and it's there, and it's like,
and that's what you can leverage to approach them and say, hey, I saw in your 10K that you had problem XYZ. Well, we have solution ABC that's going to help you. Like, do you want to do your shareholders good this year? You know what I mean? And make your boss look good, or make you look good to your boss, right?
So let's take that approach. So yes and no. And I know you're a big boy, so you can take it. So yes, the concept is there, but the finesse isn't. So here's how we'd want to approach it. Number one, they don't care about their boss. They don't care about their shareholders. They have like when you go to work for a big company, you really don't care about the CEO. Like, you don't care. You know what I mean? Like, you care about, I want to get my promotion. Or I do love my boss, and I always loved my bosses. So I always, when I got President's Club, I'd always make sure they got to go to President's Club so we could share that together, because I couldn't do my job without them. Whatever that is, finding that stat. So here's how you'd approach it. You'd find that information and say, okay, in this sector, it looks like this person oversees that sector that got absolutely bombed last quarter or year. It is their responsibility. You're in your head going, there's a chance that their whole team could get fired if they don't fix this. So we know it's important. Now we look up them in particular. Where did they study? Where did they live? What are they into? Right? Those kinds of things. And then we look up, what does a insert title? What are the top 3 things that they're facing today? And then we take all that information and we mash it in a very customized, specific outreach program. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, that's the opposite of mass automation. How am I going to reach 1,000 people? You're not. That's why everyone hates mass automation, because it's mass automation and you feel it. This requires a little bit more work, but it is scalable. You just go old school and you make 10 to 20 touches. I'm going to do 10 touches, 20 touches a week, a day, whatever. But you've done the upfront thing. Now, specifically, you're finding what this person's passionate about, right? You're finding that requires a little bit of work. Other than that, though, everything else is at scale. You're finding in, the geographical I don't know, I can't think of, let's say rent control in New York, or let's say something, and you're a big conglomerate that owns whatever, this is something that you can say, here's how this is scaled out in Vancouver. It didn't work out, and here's how it costs things, and here's how it might hit New York. But this is what some other state has done, and there's an appeals in process, so maybe you'll get that back. But right now, you've got to figure out how to navigate around that. What we've seen when we helped this other company was this, that, and the other thing. The outcome was spectacular. What are your thoughts on right? Whatever, how we want to end it. But we want to take, so we know something about them personally.
Mm-hmm.
We know that their title, their job title is facing this right now. Their industry is getting attacked by this problem, this challenge, and specifically in their geographical, their political, or their, weather-wise, whatever the situation is going on in their specific state and or city. You're packaging this together to say, I understand these things are going on. Are you facing these challenges today? Yes, I am. We've seen this with I'm just going to use CTO just for the hell of it. Where CTOs right now are facing, it's really hard to find people to join the team. And so we've seen where people kind of hybrid teams. Are you familiar with the term hybrid teams? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Right. We start talking through that kind of thing. Well, what a lot of people don't know is the benefits of it are this, that, and the other thing. You got a scalable team that can work 24/7, that the handoff still works if you got the right team. Our team, who does what I'm saying, has done this, that, and the other thing for companies just like yours. In fact, this company down the street that does blah, 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 blah. You familiar with them? Yeah. So what we did for them is we did this, that, and the other thing. And the outcome was superb. In fact, it helped fund a new building. Oh, is that the one off 6th? Yeah, it's the one off 6th. It's the one off 6th that with the peaky thing. Yeah. Like, whoa, you guys, wow. You know what? Yeah, we should talk more. And that's how this works. And you can do that at scale, right? Mm-hmm. Because the only thing that takes the thing that takes a lot of work is you've got to pick the industry, right? That you're familiar with, pick a town or geography or not, that you've familiar with, titles you've had success with, package the story. So we got 8 minutes left. So I'm going to kind of button this up, but so number one is, right. We've put our our praise portfolio together. Success we've already had. We've already done this. Been there, done that. Whether it be in your past life and you're starting a company that can fix that problem, or in your guys' case, you've already killed it in your existing sector, right? Dick, yours with SMBs. Tim, yours in Fortune 500 in specific niches. You just pick a couple of those, right? The titles that you've already had success working with that have made the decisions in the past and or look like they're going to make the decisions in the future, right? If they're publicly traded, you pull their 10K, you find their challenges. If they're not publicly traded, you can still go and find their challenges based around what are they speaking on? What are their employees saying, right? What's going on in the market today? Even if they're not sharing anything, which is highly unlikely in today's social market. But let's say they're old school and they don't post. You could still find pains and challenges that are going on in their industry that others are facing. And then you put that together. That's not hard. That's the same story for everyone you're about to reach out to. The only difference is you want to find those people and take it a next step further. So there's something that you guys can relate on a personal level, right? And then you begin. And that is how you sell in the Fortune 500 companies. It's how you sell into SMBs. Now, since we have a couple more minutes left, we're not going to be able to close out our sales system in 30 minutes, for 7 minutes. But the back half to this is once you engage, is setting up a system, and we can help. For those listening right now, this is what we do. So reach out to us, Mickeli at closethemedia.com. But is to put together the rest of the story. The rest of the story is, if the upfront was this person is so credible, what's the back half look like? This is where people lose people. Is the sales process is sloppy. You don't follow up. You know what I mean? You don't do the right things. You don't set agendas. You just kind of half-ass it, and then you live up to what big companies already think of small companies. They're just small. They don't have their poop in a group. We make sure that all of our clients have their poop in a group. Okay, meaning A to Z. Once we get somebody to look our way and interested in, they're aware, they want to have a conversation, we run them through an extremely tight sales process that makes the buyer journey joyful, surprise-free, right? And gets everybody on board. So when it comes to making that yes decision, it's already been made halfway through the process because you've done the right qualification. You've brought the right other people in that would have otherwise gotten away, behind the scenes. You've made everything visible. The agenda's been set for each and every step. You've leveraged their return on investment that would make this a no-brainer. You've packaged it with third-party verification and proof that you've done this successfully, and you've convinced them that this is the right choice, and you're going to do the same for them. And then we all hold hands, kumbaya, and enjoy some time out here in Whitefish in the winter because we've hit our number early. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah, I want the invite too.
So I'm gonna kind of before we wrap here, we got 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. So what did I not cover? Was this helpful, Dick, for you in particular? It's a similar process that you're probably already familiar with. The only difference with Fortune 500 is the internal selling game. So it's literally the same system and process we talked about before, which is setting the agenda, those steps. It's just you got to fan it out. That's the only difference. Is with an SMB, you might have a couple decision makers. That's the positive of selling an SMB. The trick of selling an SMB is it's their baby and there's emotion tied to it, and that often can create its own set of problems. With Fortune 500 or whatever, the people don't have that same level of give a shit, but they do care about themselves and their team and their piece of that pie, that they want to protect that. They don't want to make a bad decision because that could result in them getting fired. So the trick is you want to make sure that who else is involved in this decision, who else is going to get in the way. Now that we've established kind of a trusting bond, who's going to be our Karen here? Who's going to be, who's going to get in our way and say no. And then we understand his or her true feelings of why they've blocked this stuff in the past. And we combat that, we get around that, and we win them over one by one until we're one big team. How to do that? That's a conversation for another day, but that's the best job I could do for everyone listening and for you guys, to tackle your challenges and then hopefully give you something to apply when we hang up today. Did we accomplish that?
Yeah. So I've got one more tactical question. So if our sales process for SMBs is typically around 30 days, because we have like a 4-week process, does that mean that with Fortune 500s, is it going to get dragged out from 4 meetings throughout 4 weeks? Is it going to be 8 meetings throughout 8 weeks because I have to talk to more stakeholders, or what's the tactical difference?
Yeah. So just as we were talking about different industries, like Foot Doctor, I don't remember, Fortune 500 and SMBs are not the same thing. Just not. So if you have a process for SMBs, which you should have a process for enterprise, but they're not the same thing. So I would double your average time, because you got to get it on their their vendor management system. In most cases, you've got to be approved by, in your case, probably not HR, but you've got to be approved by a lot of different things just to engage and have a conversation. Because what they're not going to do is not get you on the VMS, go through 6 meetings, and then be like, I guess we got to get you in the approval chain. If they do that, run. They will. I'm not saying they won't, but you need to set the stage. You are the expert. So what we've seen done in the past when we worked with Fortune 500 companies is we need to get on the VMS system. Is that a step that we need to take here? And then we start there. So now let's put all of our energy into getting on the VMS system. Oh, we're on that VMS system. Here it is. Yep. Here's the approval letter. Fantastic. The next step in our process is we do bop, bop, bop. We really like to invite these players and these players because we found in the past it's very important to them to also be on board. Who are those people? These people, these people. Once you've done the upfront and you've gotten their trust, your champion and you are on the same team. You guys are now buddies. You're trying to go for it and try and get this thing done. They want to work with you. You want to work with them. You just got to go and then sell up to the rest of the people. So it's just kind of a multi-level sale, if you will. But most of the selling that you'll have to deal with will be internal. But it's the same process as selling into an SMB. It's just times 3 or 4 different groups or approval chains. That's the only difference. But it will double your time investment. But it'll also double your return. So Anyway, guys, we got 1 minute. I know Tim has got to go. This has been great. For those listening, thank you. This has been a season 5, episode 1 kickoff for kind of our new approach. The next 12 episodes are going to be conversations like this. We want to bring real founders and real people in that are struggling with certain challenges or just want to know, how do I combat this? And we're going to do our best to solve them. We sell a 3-month kind of sprint package, which is courses and coaching based around real deals, just like this, real challenges that we put our award-winning sales system in to help solve. If that sounds of interest, Mickeli at closersmedia.com or hit us up at closersmedia.com. And we hope to see you guys around Twin Cities Startup Week. Thank you again, Beta. Thank you again, Tim. Thank you again, Dick, for coming out and being vulnerable. Thanks to the whole Twin Cities Startup Week folks for putting this all together. And we'll see you bopping around in the chat rooms and events coming up. And for our closers community, thank you for joining us once again. And we'll see you next month, the next Copy and Closers. Cheers.